3 years after the conclusion of the bizarre Thorn trilogy, we get our first timeline reboot with Halloween H2O 20 years later. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. If you're new here, my name is Carter Scott Allen. This is my film page where I discuss anything and everything film related. If I'm interested, I will talk about it, as well as sharing my professional filmmaking journey. But with that being said, this is the 7th Halloween review on the road to Halloween Ends. 20 years after Michael's massacre in Haddonfield, Laurie Strode faked her own death, traveled to California, and took on the identity Carrie Tate. Michael discovers Laurie's new identity and travels to California to kill his sister. Laurie must now take on her brother with her son's life at stake. And of course, starting with the directing, we have Steve Miner, who you guys might know was the director for Friday the 13th Part 2 and Part 3. We get our second takedown of Michael Myers after Halloween 2, but this is the first victory for Laurie, and it feels like the first true victory in the franchise. Overall, Miner does a fantastic job with this film. It's very entertaining, and I think had I seen this film before Halloween 2018, maybe even like I've said with previous reviews, at a younger age, that I might have preferred this film over Halloween 2018. And I will say, with this review, we're only talking about this specific film and not how it ties into Halloween Resurrection, because I do think, on its own, this film is a badass film. But connecting it to Resurrection, it definitely pulls the rug out from under you. Overall, it's got interesting ideas, and it takes the franchise into fun new territory. As for the cast and the characters in this film, there's no real characters that I have any attachment to, other than, of course, Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis. She is fantastic as our final girl. Josh Hartnett is actually a perfect pick for her son at the time in the year of 1998. It just seems like a perfect fit. LL Cool J is awesome to see, and also Michelle Williams was a really big surprise. I had no idea she was in this film. Ultimately, the characters are not memorable at all, but with all of these actors having very successful careers, it does make for a fun watch now. And moving on to the story, like I said before, this film does have some interesting ideas, some new techniques, some new uniqueness to the franchise that felt very much needed. It's a breath of fresh air into the franchise. You have Laurie traveling to California, being this dean of a private school. It's something that I totally would have never expected, never would have guessed. I never would have wrote it, and there's, I'm not a writer yet, but it's a cool idea. I think it works really well for the franchise, and I really don't hate it. I also think when you're looking at the story for this film, you do have to appreciate it for it being the 7th film in a franchise, and the fact that it really did kind of totally reinvent the franchise until Resurrection pulled the rug out from under it. As for the visuals, again, I don't feel like I have much to say about the visuals for a lot of the films in the middle jumble of the Halloween franchise, but this film looks good. I will say, if there's anything, it just looks like most other 90s horror films. That's not a bad thing. It's just a thing of the times. It's just how they looked, and that's okay. I will say, though, visually, this is one of the more immersive films since Halloween 1 or 2, just because of the fact that these practical locations are used, and you can tell that things aren't necessarily sets, or they're not closed in tight spaces in houses. You do get a lot of wide shots, wide variety of scenery, and it's fun. It's a fun addition to the franchise. And moving along to the classic score, the Halloween score, we're finally working our way towards not blaring the classic theme into your face and using it only really when it's needed. It's not quite to where I would like the franchise score to be at, but it is a step in the right direction. Nothing will be as bad as the score for Halloween 5, like I said in my review for Halloween 6. But so far, I don't think any of these scores compared to the first or the second film. I would put this right under those films and put this score above 4, 5, and 6. And moving on to the final thoughts for Halloween H2O 20 years later, this is a film that I wish I had seen sooner. I definitely understand why people have complaints for Halloween 2018, especially when you're comparing it to H2O or some other films in the franchise. I am starting to see why people have more complaints with Halloween 2018. But again, I find enjoyability with both of the continuations of the franchise. I do think Halloween 1, 2, and H2O all work really well as a trilogy, and I'm also enjoying the way that David Gordon Green is going. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of Halloween Kills, and we'll see how Halloween Ends concludes, but with that being said, these are both entries that offer completely different things and are overall very entertaining. I do not think this is one I would need to watch every Halloween, but it is one I would be happy adding to my collection. But those are my thoughts for Halloween H2O 20 years later. Let me know. But those are my thoughts for Halloween H2O 20 years later. Let me know what you guys thought of H2O down in the comments below. And let me know, are you guys hyped for Halloween Ends? And I have now reviewed 7 of the films in the Halloween franchise leading up to Halloween Ends. Next up, we have Halloween Resurrection tomorrow, followed by Rob Zombie's Halloween the next day on Thursday, and then Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 on Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Carter Scotland Allen, and I will see you guys in my next movie-related video. Peace.